Welcome to the Does This Happen to You podcast, where we explore the funny side of truth is stranger than fiction stories. Our story this week is from Rachel A. Pfeffer, who you'll find on medium.com. And here is: this was the most idiotic lawsuit I was ever asked to file. Don't worry, I wasn't that big an idiot this time. Lawyer bashing jokes abound, and most are pretty goddamn funny. One of my personal favorites has two doctors discussing the need for new experimental test subjects. Dr. A tells Dr. B he's going to use lawyers this time instead of his usual because there are more of them and some things rats just won't do. Unlike other professions, when lawyers go rogue and file ridiculous lawsuits, it often hits the press, and the rest of us suffer for it. Now, I don't think the "you made me fat" lawsuits against the fast food giants should have been summarily dismissed. The more I read about how their scientists spent years perfecting the hyper-palatable processed crap we're being sold, the more I think we all have claims against them. That stuff is literally addictive, but I digress, as usual. Like food, shelter is on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and breeds its own courtroom battles. How's that for a segue? Damn, I'm good. A confusing consultation. I was representing U.S. Home in an abandoned subdivision case when a friend called to say he knew a young couple who'd been defrauded in a real estate transaction. My recent encounters with homeowners and their tales of woe left me vulnerable, so I agreed to hear them out. Actually, that's a lie. I was a baby litigator and had my sights set on teaching the boys a lesson by becoming their first female partner. Getting clients and cases was key to my plan, and this sounded like it had potential. So I probably deserved what I got. I'd use their real names if I remembered them because I don't give a shit about shaming people, but time has robbed me of those, so we'll call them Chad and Karen. They seemed normal enough when we met in my office. It was a multi-hanky event for poor Karen, and I couldn't get much information between sobs. Chad was more mad than sad, but all he said was the realtor lied about the neighborhood, which was so trashy, noisy, and smelly they couldn't live there. I wasn't about to sue Century 21 or ruin a realtor's reputation without a bit more than that, so I arranged a due diligence trip. I needed to check this out and see for myself. Houston is literally the Wild West where construction is concerned. There's no zoning to speak of, and, back in the early 90s, what used to be outlying rice fields and mixed-use commercial properties was rapidly being converted to subdivisions. That led to some interesting bedfellows, as I was to find out. How did you miss that? This was long before GPS, so I got out my trusty key map and located their problem property. It was on the edge of civilization, but I'm comfortable in "there be dragons" territory, and I reached it in about an hour. Their house was in the far corner of this new development, and I did notice a little more trash than usual tumbling down the street as I approached. The minute I turned the corner on their street, I knew why. I hadn't heard the bulldozers because I had Genesis, a trick of the tail, blaring through my Bose, but I saw them about the same time I saw my clients. Their house was directly across the street from an immense working landfill. I should have peeled out and saved minutes of my life, but I had to know how stupid they really were, so I stayed. And my first question to them was this subtitle, or words to that effect. I might have said, "How the fuck did you miss that?" I was a tad irritated at having my time wasted. Their claim? Get this, they visited on a Sunday when the bulldozers weren't active and, according to them, were hidden behind the fence. The realtor allegedly distracted them so much pointing out the home's good features that they didn't notice the landfill. I told them in no uncertain terms they'd have a hard time selling failure to disclose here. For fuck's sake, the fence was an 8-foot-high chain link affair, ringing acreage strewn with dirty diapers. Even if it had been solid, the trash heaps topped that by 4 to 5 feet. I thought I was done with the lunacy and was preparing to sprint back to my car when they said, "That's not the worst thing she lied about. Come see." Against my better instincts, I followed because I just had to know. Oh, you've got to be kidding. As we rounded the side of the house, a stench that made the landfill smell like lilacs hit me. I couldn't see where it was coming from, but I heard high-pitched squealing from over the back fence. I stepped up on a cinder block, peeked over, and saw acres of little oinkers running around shitting everywhere. It was actually kind of cute, if you could forget they were soon to be sausage. This is where Chad and Karen's story jumped the shark, or the pig. In their world, the realtor and the pig farmer conspired to hide the pigs during their visit in order to dump this house on them. They'd been told only a few horses lived in the field, and the very large corrugated tin structure was their barn. Yeah, right. If they've managed to survive, they're probably QAnoners. Sheesh. When Chad looked at me plaintively and asked how soon I could file, I gave him that look. The one in the photo. Then I turned and walked away. Even though he offered to pay my hourly rate and then some, I firmly believe standards, no matter how minimal, are important. And that's the moral of this story. The takeaway? I had to write something to launch this new publication that the fabulous James Bellergeau proposed, and here you have it. If you enjoyed this iteration of idiocy, be sure to stay tuned because there's always more. Thanks for listening. I'm Chris Kepler, and I hope you enjoyed listening to these stories as much as I enjoyed narrating them. I'd love for more people to hear these wonderful stories, so please share and tell your friends.